your town. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared of aliens?
Hello, weirdos. How's everybody doing out there in Weirdo Land?
Doing well.
Good.
Vicky, good?
A little zombie-like, but...
Zombie-like. You are an educator. I guess you're doing a lot of testing.
Yes, extended time testing, which makes it even more special.
Do you remember testing a lot as a kid? I remember we didn't test that much, and then all of a sudden you had the FCAT, and you had all this crap kids had to pass that was extra pressure. When did that start?
Well, we had FCAT since I started teaching in 2003, and then they switched it to FSA, which was even harder than FCAT. And so it depends on your grade level. You know, like third graders, they have to take the reading and the math, and if they don't pass the reading, unfortunately, they're going to be retained in third grade. And fourth grade, they do reading, math, and writing. And fifth grade's really special because you do reading, math, writing, and science.
I mean, Common Core math. What's up with that shit?
Don't remember reading teacher.
I don't understand though. Like I remember you take 3 and you add 3 and you get 6, and it was pretty easy. I mean, I still count on my fingers, but it was a basic concept. Who the shit decided to say, let's change how we do math? Beckett, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I got out of school, I think, right at the right time. No, I think it was the No Child Left Behind Act, like made like all these like standardized tests to make sure that the different schools and different locations weren't different than others.
So, I mean, you being a teacher, don't you hear people talking major shit about Common Core math? Does anybody like it?
I haven't met anybody, but actually we had a special guest at our school, and she made us look at it from a different perspective.
Oh, here we go.
And
here we go.
Not that I'm defending it, because
Vicky.
I believe that children, I think it's basic. I really think you should memorize your multiplication tables.
9 times 3, go.
9 times 3 is 27.
Boom, educator.
There's a thing with the 9s too. If anybody doesn't know this one, not the finger one, no, because you might be in a test and both of your hands are occupied, so you can't depend on your fingers.
Okay,
so
just so you know, if you're not watching at home, Vicky was just yelling at Denny's because he was trying to count on his fingers.
Yeah, but here's a way you can do it mentally without using your fingers. It's real quick. If you're doing 9 times 3, okay, the first number is 1 less than the number you're multiplying by 9, which is 2. And then what do you add to 2 to make 9, which is 7? Your answer is 27. So you can do that a little bit faster. If you don't have it memorized, you can do that a little faster in your head than if you're, if your fingers, if you get a cramp or you get arthritis or something,
Wow, Vicky, Common Core math lover. All right.
Sympathizing with it.
You're in it.
I can understand it. Like after that workshop and after she explained a few things and I looked at it from a different perspective, I have to say, I was like, okay, I get it now.
Now I'm so old school. I want to battle rap Common Core math. I want to get Beckett in the booth. So Beckett, let's delve into this quickly. You just got a call from Bachelor in Paradise?
Oh yeah, it just happened. Literally,
Nice.
just happened.
Okay, so if you don't know what this show is, this is like the sleazier Bachelor. I mean, it's fantastic because it's so over the top.
It's almost Bravo sleazy, but it's on ABC. So
Are you going to do it? If they want you to do it, would you do a round of Bachelor in Paradise? And is it called Bachelor in Paradise?
The Bachelor in Paradise.
Okay, and if you do, you have to commit to us right now that you would wear Weird Whatever shirts the entire time.
Every day.
Well, they
And do
actually
Common Core math too.
they put tape over any brands, like even a Nike swoosh.
So
No branding.
You couldn't do Weird Whatever?
They take the water bottle label. They take it off, so it's just a clear bottle.
But they're worried about being sued. You're part of the podcast. We're not going to sue you. They'd still say, because they had Swaggy C on Big Brother. That was his own brand, and he was constantly...
I'd have to come up with a creative way to get around production.
There's still time for a tattoo on his forehead.
Oh, we can't mess up our moneymaker. I mean, that's how we pull numbers, Vicky.
Maybe I can get one on my butt cheek or something. Just walk around in a thong in paradise.
We'll talk. We'll talk. If you do decide to do Bachelor in Paradise, we have to make sure you get some kind of Weird Whatever logo out there.
It just depends if my heart's taken by then.
Oh, Beckett, come on. This bullshit again? Let's act like Beckett's in love.
That's probably a crazy show to be on.
Bachelor in Paradise? Well, it's pretty contrived, I'd imagine. They're throwing booze down everybody's
It's
throat.
like the Tinder of The Bachelor, you know?
Yeah, if you don't know it, it's basically everyone's there to hook up with one another, and the one person that gets left out has to
Yeah.
leave and is eliminated. So it really is kind of like a real life Tinder.
Yeah.
It's how I met you guys, though, so I wouldn't have changed it, right?
No, I met. When did I meet you?
Well, I think I came on the morning show like back in like the day after doing the Bachelor.
Did you
The
ever?
Bachelorette.
Did you ever go to Wild 95.5?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so you're newer.
I listened as a kid. Yeah.
You're a newer friend. You
Yeah.
listen as a kid. I'm not that old, dog.
When you first started.
No, I am getting old. Vicky, here's a email. Let's jump into the weirdness, y'all. Enough of the pleasantries. It's titled "Animal Possession." Dear Weird Whatever, I did a seance at my house, and now I think my cat is possessed. Can animals get possessed or have a spirit take over? My cat now tries to attack children. It seems to kill other animals when she didn't in the past. Also, things fly off the shelf when she walks in the room. What do you guys think? Animal possession? Is it possible? Lois from Orlando.
I mean, first I'd take the cat to the vet just to see if there's something going on. But as far as
That'd be a fun visit. Doc,
Yeah.
I think my cat's possessed.
In the past, there have been, maybe in the present too, they used to say that witches would use animals as their familiars and, basically their partners in crime, so to speak. I don't personally think that the animal itself would be possessed. I think that something could manipulate the animal but not actually possess its body.
So we talk about a doll being the host of of a possession. So animals could not hold so people can be taken over, but animals can't?
The reason is because with a human possession, you have to have some type of permission to. Whether it's because you have denounced your beliefs in God or something like that, that opens the door and that allows the possession to take place. I'm not sure whether animals are I definitely have not studied this, but I would think more that a spirit is using that animal to make the person believe that.
Well, then what would you say to somebody who is very religious, who feels like they've also had a possession take over them?
Well, if you're very religious and you believe that, good luck, go to your clergy and, see. It's a very drawn out process to actually get help from the clergy.
But I guess what I'm saying is you said people are down and that's how they
yeah,
get...
because it literally can be one moment where you are like totally stressed out and you say, GD, damn it, or whatever. And they say that is the moment that you have denounced your beliefs long enough for something to have permission to come in. It's not like you're standing there and saying, hey, come get me.
What would you say to somebody who's very faith-based, never had a moment like that, has stayed, nose to the grindstone, very, very religious, but there's still been a possession take over them? What would you say to that? Why would that happen?
I would say that there still was something weak in their system, whether it was a mental breakdown or there was something like that. There's usually some underlining factor that allows that possession to take place.
So at any point, anytime anyone has a vulnerable moment, a sad moment, that is the opportunity, that's the doorway where any kind of possession could take place for anybody.
It's potentially. That doesn't
That's
mean,
what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's the potential. You have to have that invitation.
It's almost like when you're around somebody who has a cold, there's a moment there where you're going to catch the cold.
Right.
But so what you're saying is when you're down and out, that is when you could potentially get. It's almost like a tornado warning, but a ghost warning.
Right. It's potential because you're in the mindset where you could allow something to come in.
Beckett, what are your thoughts on this?
Ironically, I wonder if you have to be spiritual/religious to get possessed. Because if you're atheist, then you don't believe in getting possessed, right? And if you're spiritual, even though you were, a good Christian soldier your whole life, never deviated, never made any sins, then in theory, like at least you're spiritual, you believe in possession.
But could you
that's the mindset.
Could you argue an atheist wouldn't know they're possessed because they're just, it's probably this, it's probably a virus. They're not thinking it's a possession. I guess my whole thing is it just seems like there's I feel like anybody can be possessed. I don't know if it's whether you're an atheist or if you're religious. I think what Vicky is saying is if you have a down moment, that is when you could potentially be possessed.
Right.
So that would never hold up in court, right? Like they would have to declare insanity, and they would have to approve sanity. You can't say, "Oh, I was possessed, so I stabbed that person." Like that would be a defense.
Agreed. You can't
Right.
you can't use possession as a defense, Vicky.
Although the Warrens did try to help someone, and I don't remember exactly whether he was acquitted or not, but the Warrens did actually use that as a defense with someone that they believed was possessed, and I believe he shot someone. It was one of their famous cases in Connecticut. I'd have to look up the details on it, but I think that they actually used that as a defense.
But did they win that case?
I don't remember.
I'm sure it's a defense, but is that a winnable?
Right.
Yeah, I was possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
I will do my homework and let you know.
Set me free.
That's why I didn't pay my taxes.
Well, I want to kind of pivot here. We've got our, to me, I loved interviewing this guy the last time on the Weird Whenever podcast, Peter, our UFO hotline guy. Peter, are you there?
Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Now, Peter, for the new listeners here that are checking out our podcast, could you explain exactly what you do at the UFO hotline?
Yes, the National UFO Reporting Center was founded in Seattle by my predecessor in that job. His name was Robert J. Gribble. He was a retired Seattle fireman. And in July of 1994, he'd just sort of run out of steam. And he bequeathed the hotline to me, and I've been running it ever since. One of the most remarkable jobs I've ever had in my life, and I've had a few interesting ones. So what we do is take UFO reports over our hotline, and we have an online report form on our website, ufocenter.com, and we invite people to then submit detailed written reports about what they've seen. That, in a nutshell, is what we do.
That's awesome stuff. So the question everyone wants to know is, 2019, we're about 3 months in, I guess. What are the newest sightings you've had? Where is the hotbed states here in the U.S.?
Well, a lot of people assume they're hot spots, but there is no hot spot that I can detect. The only possible exception would be South Carolina, just to the north of you. We're getting a lot of reports specifically from Horry County, the easternmost county in South Carolina, and people are seeing clusters of red, orange, yellow, amber, and gold lights, and we have no idea why that is the case. So Myrtle Beach is the sort of the center of all the reports that are being submitted from that state.
Is there a possible theory on why that's going on in that area? Are some of the UFO experts saying this is why or that's why?
We have no idea. I'm one of the few UFO investigators to have noticed this trend as far as I know, and I have no explanation for why South Carolina would be the only hotspot that I can detect among the 130,000 reports on our website.
And that's more of a recent kind of a thing? You're getting a ton of them from now, you're saying?
No, not really. It goes back about 6 years. This strange phenomenon, 7 years, I guess I should say, this strange phenomenon of clusters of colorful lights began in late May of 19...
What happened? Is he still on?
I do not hear him.
I do not hear him. Did the aliens oh my God, I was so locked in.
Me too.
We'll get him back. We'll get him
we'll
back.
check. It sounded like his connection was a little funky with the robot sounds, but I was so sucked into the story.
Is it the government? They finally... do they finally get
They
us?
pulled the plug on it.
They finally got us.
Okay,
Yes.
I did find that his name was Arnie Johnson, and
Who is this again?
this is the one that used the "devil made me do it" defense. And that Ed and Lorraine Warren actually testified on his behalf, saying that he was influenced. It's the first known case that they used a possession as a defense.
Okay, we'll delve back into that in 1 second. Peter, are you there? Peter?
It must be a connection.
Is
I
our
don't know.
phones going crappy again?
It could be. I mean, they've been working on them.
I mean, I think Angelica's talking to him right now.
She was a second ago.
All right, well, if you can get him on, I was really locked into that. Damn it, man. Gosh. I want to talk to Peter. I love that guy. That guy's got great UFO voice.
Yeah, he's got great
He's
great
so,
voice.
He's so credible sounding.
Oh, I get sucked into it. I was literally sucked into that story.
I was too, and then it cut off. Like, what happened, Dennis?
It was like in a movie where you like lose contact.
It's like TBD.
Yeah, no, I was really interested in why the last 6 years we've been seeing these weird like gold and red orbs.
Well, our producer Angelica is trying to get him back on. We apologize. I mean, I think it's the government. I think we're finally making some noise here at the Weird Whatever podcast. Vicky, go ahead and.
He lost, by the way.
So
He was convicted of first-degree manslaughter.
So go ahead and reset the story just so people.
The Warrens, there was a case where a man was possessed, or the Warrens claimed that he was possessed, and they testified for him, and he lost, though.
Okay, we have Peter back. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
not trying to
that's
cut
okay.
you off. Peter, are you there? Oh, man. We're obviously going to edit this out. Peter, it's got to be our phones.
It has to be.
Or it's the government. I'm going to stick with the government. It's going to make me not. It's going to not make me as mad if I think it's the government and not our shitty equipment that
Totally.
we're not going to be dealing with. Okay, Vicky. Yes, the Warrens. Okay, innocent, guilty. I don't even know what we're talking about.
He was found guilty of manslaughter and served 5 years.
Okay. Angelica, can you please make sure that Peter doesn't think we're pranking him? I know that's a sore spot for him.
Yeah, I know. That's the last guy in the world I want to think we're pranking him.
I know. I want that relationship to still be.
I like listening to Peter, man.
I'm excited to ask him about Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton, because that was, I didn't really get freaked out by like Halloween when I was a kid or anything like that.
Because he didn't watch
Not to
it.
bring up a sore spot, but
The new Halloween.
but Fire in the Sky was probably the only movie when I was younger. See, 93 as probably middle school. I would literally like started sleeping in my mom's bed for like 2 nights.
That's a horrifying movie because it is the worst case scenario. You are out in the woods with your friends, and then you're sucked up in a ship, and then they do all kind of horrific experiments on you. And this guy claims this really happened. You've got eyewitnesses saying they saw this guy go up into a ship. I mean, you've got a lot of people. You'd have to have a core group of people who are all on the same page that had a blood oath saying we're not going to ever break our lie, no matter what. This is what happened. This is what happened.
5 days, there was a missing persons report. The friends were investigated for foul play, and they all took polygraph tests afterwards, and they all passed.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating story. If you are interested in UFO, alien kind of stuff, highly recommend the Fire in the Sky movie. Look up, I'm sure there's a documentary. There has to be, right? There's got to be a documentary on that.
That's funny you seen that movie, Beckett. Like, that's just that's a random one to see.
You know, Aliens 1, 2, and 3, like Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
I was into that, and that scared me, don't get me wrong, but that was like sci-fi.
That's jump scare.
That was like sci-fi scary, where like an alien had a mouth that came out of another mouth, and like it was like, gooey, whatever. Fire in the Sky scared me more because it was quote unquote based on a true story.
For sure.
All right, we got Peter on.
Well, so I haven't had a chance to even troubleshoot it. It could be on our end, like right here. I just have to...
do you want to walk over here, and me and Beckett and Vicky will try to... Peter, if you're listening to this right now, we are not at all trying to... Peter? Damn it, Peter. I want to talk to you so bad. All right, it's got to be on our end then. I apologize to our audience.
Well, I would just have to get down and reset the phone line.
Yeah, that's very convenient during a live podcast.
I can do it real quick if you want.
Breathe, bird, breathe.
I can do it real quick if you want.
Well, I mean, is it going to mess up our podcast if you have to reset the phones?
No.
Do it. Definitely do. I want to get Peter back on. Our audience deserves Peter, damn it.
But does that make sense that if it's quote unquote based on a true story and it's not like those sci-fi aliens, they're the aliens that that seem, when people do a composite, like a police sketch of what they saw, and it's like those like skinny little human-like features with the beady eyes and stuff like that. That seems to be, it's kind of interesting. Like there seems to be some sort of consensus. Me being the skeptic, that's interesting to me that there's a relatively consistent consensus of what these aliens look like.
And Travis, I mean, anybody that knew him after the incident, he clearly was suffering from post-traumatic, because he would have episodes where he would be in a room, and then all of a sudden he would just like be in the fetal position under a table.
Yeah, you get flashbacks. Yeah, it's freaky.
Oh yeah, no, okay. So if you were abducted by if you had a chance to be abducted, Would you take it?
No.
They're going to do no experiments on you. They're going to just take you to their land, their planet. They're going to not do experiments, but they may jostle you, maybe tickle you a little bit. Let's see what this human body does. Do you take that? You're gone for 48 hours. You come back. It's a weekend.
I would.
I think I would too, man.
Yeah.
So if it was ironclad, I don't know how this scenario would actually exist, but if I knew for sure I was coming back safe, there wasn't going to be any butt stuff, and
No butt stuff. This is a no butt stuff scenario.
no butt stuff. Okay, yeah, and I knew that I was going to come back safe, and I could go.
A little ball work though.
Well, now I'm convinced.
Now he's in for sure.
I'm in. No, that'd be cool. Like if I could guarantee safe passage, but like to like roll the dice and like go off with people that no one knows. Like,
The rolling the dice of experiment. Whether
No.
I'm with you on that. It'd have to be a guaranteed. I'm not getting any experiments done on me.
Yeah.
All right. So
She's got him on the phone. She's talking to him right now.
okay, all right. Very
Yeah, I'll
good.
switch it over in a sec.
Got you. All right. We're just talking about alien and butt stuff.
Nice. I was only gone for like
Wow.
20 seconds.
It turned so quick.
I come back in.
But that was the scary part of one of his flashbacks is that he got on the table, he started like doing stuff and like putting stuff down his throat, and that's crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, so it's kind of weird though. You talk about aliens, and everyone has the same kind of description of the aliens. Okay, let's say you wanted to lie about seeing an alien. You'd go, "Oh, it was 3 feet tall. The eyes were big and wide. Forehead so tall." You know what I mean? At this point, anybody can lie about that.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be the skeptic. I'm not trying to take your role.
Yeah.
All right. We have got Peter back on. I hope, because if it doesn't work this time. Peter?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes,
Oh, we got
awesome.
Peter back. Yes. I totally apologize, Peter. We were so locked into what you were saying, and then the phones went out. We're like, oh my gosh, it's the government. They're shutting us down. So
The NSA.
so you were talking about some of the newer sightings here in 2019. What are some of the newer sightings you've gotten?
Well, one from down in your area. You know where Vero Beach is, just south of Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral.
That's
yeah.
our backyard, yeah.
3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, on the 14th of March, 2019, that was a Thursday night at 8:45, I got a flurry of reports from that area. People were reporting not just one, but a cluster of, they estimated between 50 and 100 lights in a small area of the sky that were moving and maneuvering relative to each other. I think I received probably 4 or 6 reports about that incident, and that's a lot of reports from my experience. A lot of reports about one incident, and that is now posted to our website at ufocenter.com. If anybody would like to read the reports, they're available for anyone who's interested. Another more recent report comes from Seattle on the 31st of March. This is just this past Sunday, 3 days ago. A gentleman was riding around Green Lake Park, which is, I've read, the most frequently visited park in the state of Washington. So there are many people there. They were riding around the lake, and they glanced up, and his vision caught an object that was very, very reflective, like a chrome surface. And he stopped his bike and continued to look at it. Then he realized that there were 2 more in very close proximity to the first one. And suddenly, while he and his son were watching them, they all raced towards one another and formed an even smaller formation of 3. What they were, I have no idea, but they cannot be airplanes, they cannot be meteors, cannot be weather balloons, probably are not drones of any type, leaving the question, what were they? And that's about the best we ever get in ufology, is a question mark.
Do you have an incident in your whole entire career where you've got the most calls about an incident, and what would that have been?
It would have been the Phoenix Lights event of 21 years ago, March 13th, 1997, Thursday night. It was a wild night. The calls were flooding into the UFO Center for probably about 6 or 7 hours. And to give you some idea of how dramatic it was, one object hovered over Camelback Mountain, was seen by Mrs. I'll think of her name in a moment. She's gone public, Sue Watson, Mrs. Susan Watson, and her 4 children were being mesmerized by this thing. It was a huge object. It subtended an arc of about 135 degrees, she estimated. In other words, hold out your arms almost opposite one another, and that is how big the object was. At that moment, we know from an Air Force pilot who intercepted it that it was at 9,000 feet, and if you do the trigonometry, an object that is 9,000 feet away from you but is big enough to subtend an arc of 135 degrees, it had a wingspan of 8.25 miles, statute terrestrial miles.
Wow, that's
and that
fascinating.
was one of probably hundreds of calls and reports we received that night.
Yeah, that's a famous case. That's when the governor, I believe, said he'd seen the UFOs. There's an interview, I think, saying, I definitely saw the UFOs, and then he did a press conference and he brought out that alien to kind of mock everybody, and people were kind of upset. Is that the same case?
Yeah, same case, Phoenix Lights. That was Governor Fife Symington, and the press was very annoyed at him, as were the UFO investigators who were working so hard to try to get the truth and bring it to the American people. To have a governor of a state thwarting our efforts was really annoying.
So another thing we've gotten a couple emails on are people who have had UFO experiences. They've emailed us and said, I've seen something in the sky, I've been public about it, and then I've got visited by the quote-unquote men in black. Do you have any kind of information or any kind of stories about the men in black? And are they a real thing, or is that just kind of fiction to get people kind of talking?
My suspicion is it's a fictional construct resulting from the 2 films by that title, Men in Black, but I can't say for sure. However, one case in particular comes to mind. It was January 7th, 1995, shortly after I'd taken over the hotline, and an object blew up over McMinnville, Tennessee, in Warren County. It blew up. People called 911 and reported a cluster of objects descending slowly apparently into the airport or towards the airport. As they descended very slowly, one of them apparently blew up and sent huge, big burning fragments, blue fragments, into the sky. Well, the reason I mention this case is hours later, in the wee hours of the morning, people in that area were awakened by knocking at their doors. The people who were brave enough to go to their doors and open it were greeted by usually 2 or 3 people who identified themselves as being from the U.S. government, and they were requesting permission to go on the landowner's land to look for fragments of an aircraft that had blown up over the airport. But it was deception. That's about as close to Men in Black as I've come to this point in my career.
Very fascinating stuff. And the last question I'm going to ask you, Peter, is we get people who see things, UFO sightings, coming from the ocean. Do you get a lot of reports from UFOs flying out of the ocean, going back in, or are they always just in the sky?
Oh, we get them in all varieties. But there was a case from Mazatlan, Mexico. It was Labor Day of 2015 or 2014, I've forgotten which. An airline pilot was in a motel room and sitting on his balcony looking out over the water, and he estimates 6 or 8 red lights come directly out of the ocean and go streaking off into the night sky.
Wow.
So my answer is yes. We do get reports of that nature once in a while, and I have reason to believe that these UFOs are interacting, is probably the best term to use, with cetaceans, bottlenose dolphins, short-fin pilot whales. Back in 1991, there was a very interesting photo published in both Seattle newspapers, the Post-Intelligencer and the Seattle Times, that revealed that the Air Force had recovered about 40 injured pilot whales that were washed up on a beach. They had beached themselves near Key West, Florida. And the Air Force mobilized all the resources necessary to rescue those whales, get them to an aquarium in Miami, Sea Aquarium, I think was the name of it, and they medicated them, fed them, and rehabilitated them. Their tails were bent 90 degrees to one side. And then, 13 months after they rescued them, they flew them out into the Atlantic Ocean and dropped them out of helicopters. So the fact that they used their equipment, helicopters, strongly suggests to me, that the U.S. government was very, very interested in those whales. And it was a large ticket item. I mean, housing 40 whales for 13 months, feeding them, medicating them, rehabilitating them, and then flying them out into the ocean is a very expensive venture. So somebody must have been very interested in those whales.
Wow, that's really cool. I've never heard that before. Peter, I'm going to let you go in a second here. I just want to ask the crew if they have any questions for you.
Sure.
There was the other one that I think was interesting to me, Peter, that was, I think the Pentagon confirmed it. They called it, I think it was the case of the Tic Tac. And it was flying off the coast of San Francisco, and I think they had some third-party accounts, like some of the pilots came on and even testified on it. And the pilots, could you speak to that real quick? Because that was really interesting.
Commander Fravor was the one who intercepted it. He lives up in New Hampshire now. But the question I have for the government, that incident occurred, I believe, in November of 2004. The question I have for the government is, why did it take them all this time to come forward?
Right.
And they, of course, they don't want to answer that. I may be mistaken on the date, but that's the date I remember at this point. I'd want to confirm that. But clearly the U.S. government is, the most polite thing I can say is, it is shielding the American people from the truth. It is shielding us from information that is perhaps the most important scientific question that has ever confronted mankind to this point in its history. Namely, are we alone in this galaxy or are we not? And from my vantage point, the clear and resounding answer to that is we are not alone. And why the government is not squaring with the American people, I do not know.
And you have a military background, correct, Peter?
I served in the U.S. Army as a Russian translator. That's correct.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Vicki, Denny's?
My question would be, do you think that these craft want to be seen? Do you think when they show themselves, it's on purpose? It's not an accident. Oops, somebody actually saw us.
Good question.
Is it? Do you believe that they are doing this on purpose to give us a glimpse?
That's a very good point, and my suspicion, my answer to the question would be yes. And I think, based on the reports I've taken over the last 25 years, that they are showing themselves even more overtly than has been the case in the past. I mentioned this phenomenon of clusters of red lights, that it first began to ramp up in late May of 2012. But these objects seem to be showing themselves much more overtly than used to be the case. Daytime sightings as well as nighttime sightings. And they're touching down, allegedly, on the planet Earth in proximity to the witnesses who report the incidents. So I think a tentative yes to your question, and it's a good question. I agree.
Well, Peter, we want to thank you for joining us in the Weird One of our podcast again. We consider you a friend, and we'd love to talk to you again sometime. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate the invitation.
Take care.
Thank you.
Man, great stuff right there. I got to tell you. I mean,
Stuff I've never heard of before.
yeah. I mean, if you're into that kind of stuff, you're gonna find it fascinating. Yes. What are you talking about, Danny? I have no idea what
You
you're
want a
doing.
pot of data in case it goes into a dial tone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to talk. Yeah, I thought that was fascinating stuff right there.
Yeah, next we have him on. I want to talk to him about his opinion and experience and reports of abductions, not just sightings.
Yeah, you know what? That was
Yeah.
one of my questions. I just kind of, I mean, he was on for a good 15,
yeah.
20
For
minutes.
sure.
I want to cover some other stuff,
And
too.
I was wondering whether that goes to like a different department. Like it sounds like he handles a lot of the sightings, but if someone calls and said they've actually had an experience or an abduction, does he handle that, or does that go to a different department?
Yeah, what do you guys think? You guys liked Peter?
Yeah, he's awesome.
I think Peter's great.
I just
man.
like listening.
And the fact that he can tell you date, I believe it was
Thursday.
blah, 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 a Thursday. He knows the day of the week. He knows the date.
Oh my gosh, this
If
son
it's
of
a holiday,
this
he
son of a
knows it.
biscuit news. He knows every. It's like
Yes.
November 19th, 1991. It was Josephine. Like what?
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah, it's good. He's real solid with all that.
I am loving that. I think let's take that greatness and turn that into more greatness. I think it's time for Denny's Random Facts.
That's
All right,
funny.
Denny. So, Beckett, go ahead. Do a little Denny's Random Facts theme song.
I want the more you know. Ding.
Oh, there you go. I love it. We do got to get in the lab though. Work on
Oh
that.
yeah, I know. We gotta do a lot of things, Denny.
So I only bring up this fact because everybody was getting sick. Everybody was getting the flu. And so I found this and I looked into it. There is no link between sudden changes in temperature and catching a cold, even though indirect results of cold weather, such as low humidity, can increase your chances of getting cold. Walking into the cold with wet hair or wet does not increase your chances of getting sick.
You know, that was a great fact back in 1999 when I heard it.
Yeah.
You guys all knew that?
Vicky,
Yes, I
Vicky,
already
you
knew
being
that.
the educator, you always grade.
D.
D. That's an F. I mean,
What?
that is some weak ass bullshit,
Yeah.
dog.
I only brought that one up because everybody's getting sick. So
I mean, I think I learned that in 11th grade,
They're
Vicky.
sick from germs, not from weather change.
Come on, Denny's.
all right.
Yes, he can only go up from here.
We can only hope, Vicky.
We can hope.
I mean, from Peter to Denny's, what the shit, Denny's?
Well, here, what's this say about humanity for you? Science proposed a minimal Turing test where you get to use only one word to convince other humans you are human and not a machine. The single word that people found most likely to distinguish humans from machines based on this study was the word
Love.
You wish. The word they used that humans distinguish from it was poop. Was the one they found humans, the most used word to distinguish humans from machines.
We're always talking poop.
Yeah, no matter what, we always go super lowbrow.
When you say most people, if you're in your close friends, if you have poopy cramps of some sort, hey Denny's, man, I have poopy cramps. You're gonna be honest with that, right?
Well, oh yeah.
Are you and Bobby Joe like that, Vicky?
I'm not a poop talker.
No, I'm not.
I'm not. She is.
I'm not saying you celebrate poop talking because
Some people are like that, though.
Oh, I think our whole KVJ show career is been based on that. But yeah, I think this. I mean, if Denny's has got stomach issues, like burn, I can't go. I'm pooping.
Yeah.
You don't think majority of people are like that in their circle? I disagree, Beckett. You're too high end, man.
I don't.
You're too Palm Beach, and you are too smart, Vicky.
But that was the number one word used if you were trying to distinguish whether a person was a robot or a person.
Interesting.
And I think it's just because humans giggle at it.
Interesting, but is it interesting enough, Vicky?
Who knows? Does it make up for the cold debacle?
Vicky doesn't like poop talk either.
Well, I was a little confused at first.
I was
thought he
too.
was talking like if you say the word, like the computer says it, or you say it, and they're trying because after I got through figuring it out, and that's a C.
It's kind of a shitty one.
Beckett. Okay. He doesn't like poop talk.
Dan.
Get out of here.
Gets one call from Bachelor in Paradise.
Yeah. Look at this guy. Yeah.
He debated about coming in
You
today.
can't talk lowbrow with us, Denny's.
I found this. I thought this was a cool concept that I wonder if more restaurants and businesses are going to adopt. There's a small cafe in France that sells coffee to rude customers for 7 francs or whatever they use, while polite customers get to pay 140 francs or euros. I don't know what they use over there.
Okay, Vicky, lack of confidence with this fact. Is that going to be a factor in this grade?
Yeah, because I'm confused again.
I am too.
Overseas currency I'm not good with.
And who's this guy, Frank?
Well, so what do you guys think about that? If you're a rude customer, they charge you more. If you're a polite customer and they like you, they charge you less.
So there's another place that is they charge men like 10 times more than women. It's run by a bunch of feminists. So if Beckett walks in there strutting his hot ass Bachelor in Paradise hairdo, he's going to be charged more no matter what. And if you're a woman, Vicky walks in, so if she gets toast, it's $1. If it's Beckett, it's $9.
That's been every bar since I've been 21. All the girlfriends drink for free, and I have to.
Totally.
I totally pay for every drink I get.
Drinks are different, Beckett, than toast. Keep that in mind.
Okay. Huh?
Okay. Yes.
So what do you guys think about that concept?
The concept is who's determining what's rude and what's not.
For sure.
That's a
it's
good
a base
point.
by base.
Good point.
Yeah, that's my only, in practical means, who's determining that.
And if you get charged the higher price and you were nice, then you're really pissed, and then you're
Right.
even a bigger jerk.
Do you think majority of rude people know that they're rude? For example, and I wouldn't say negative people and rude people are the same because they're definitely different. Because have you ever met that person who's overly negative, like an Eeyore? Do they know?
But they're not rude. They're just
not
negative.
rude. But are they self-aware to know they're so negative? Like a rude person, are they self-aware to know they're rude and they just don't give a F? Or are they?
I didn't go either.
Are they completely? I'm talking majorities here.
For sure. I bet you a lot of rude people probably don't think what they're doing is rude. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it because they would realize.
I kind of go the other way. I think rude people know more than negative people know they're being negative.
For sure. I would agree with that. I agree with that,
I would
definitely.
agree.
Yes.
And there was something that some kid said the other day, and the other kid's like, no, you shouldn't say that. That was rude. And the child legitimately did not realize that response was rude. It was something that was a typical response in his household.
Oh, I mean,
and you could tell that he really didn't know it. but-
we go through that
Totally.
all the time on the air. One of us will say something we have no idea is offensive, and then we'll get a 9. I'm not kidding you, a 9-page complaint letter about that.
But there's a difference too between being rude and being condescending. I think
Totally.
you
Well,
definitely
what does
know
that mean, Vicky?
when you're being condescending.
That's like sophisticated way to be rude.
Oh yeah.
Condescending means you're talking down to people.
Like
Bert.
real.
Thanks for Denny explaining that.
That's why I did it.
All right, give us another mediocre fact.
Oh, get out of here. So I proposed this earlier in our video, and I don't know, is it losing its luster? Is everything just losing a little bit of luster with this one?
Or okay, go on.
Or are we gaining? Is it a new wave that I just didn't catch, I guess?
Okay, well, let me hear your fact before I tear it down.
Farmers in New Zealand are now using drones to herd sheep instead of cattle or dogs or going out themselves. They're using drones that have barking sound effects in them to herd the sheep. And now they just chill back in their farm, which is now a computer room where they're controlling a drone.
No, it's getting weird out
Do
there.
you lose
man.
some of the luster? Like, you don't have a shepherd out there with a giant, crook leaning over
Well,
his frock?
We talk about it even, and I don't know if it's age or if it's really that the fact that music, and I'm talking popular music that's on the charts, more of like your top 100 stuff that is just produced just to make a hit. It kind of lacks being a musician. I mean, there are people who don't know even how to play a fucking instrument now that are famous musicians.
Totally.
They're called musicians, and they don't even know what a chord is.
Yeah.
Is that a sign of losing heart, or is that a sign of my age?
Yeah, there's a couple weird things with music. So every year that it gets easier to make, you have more people making it. So you have more bad music and you also have more good music. So I guess in the good sense, you're opening doors to people who would never be able to make music, who are now creating great music. But you're also opening doors for people who make terrible music.
Oh, not to say there's not great music out, because
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there's great musicians out there. There's great music out there, but a lot
I'm
of
just
it.
saying, with making it easier, like you said, you can now not know how to play an instrument and you can make a track.
I mean,
Like,
Vicky,
straight
do you know
up
how to
and
do
sell
an
it.
instrument? Do you play an instrument? Okay,
Nope.
you could literally go write a song tonight.
Like on GarageBand or something.
Absolutely, and get it. It could go viral. Then you're gonna get all this attention. Then you got some girl or guy, sweating their
Singing
balls
their
or
heart
their
out.
boobs off, just trying to nail it.
Trying to get that tour
Yeah, and
going.
they have legit talent. So, are we living in a time where mediocrity is getting praised when back in the day you had to have some chops to be good? And I'm talking not only music, I'm talking just entertainment in general.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about getting attention, you're getting attention in the moment. What's that attention going to be, 20, 30 years? Elvis still gets attention now. He was considered a great musician. He could play the instruments. He could write the songs. He could sing. So somebody like that is going to be remembered for years, where somebody popping into the studio and making some mediocre music, it's only going to be for the season.
I don't want to get into a huge music debate with you, but I don't know if Elvis was known to be a great musician.
I know he sang.
He sang
I know
great.
he started to learn
He
the
did play-
guitar.
yeah.
Oh,
he did
I know
play
he
instruments.
played. I know he played instruments, but was he a force to be? I don't know, Dennis. Do you know that answer?
He definitely sings well. I know he started learning guitar later, for sure, to start playing.
Vanilla Ice is still around.
Damn, Beckett's bringing it in her own
And
backyard.
he's-
I got to
Right.
deal with the uncomfortable questions now about Vanilla Ice.
No, I just saw him at a party the other day. It's really from one song
No, you're completely
Absolutely right.
that had a hook that may or may not have been stolen, depending on who you listen to.
Well,
I mean,
Dun 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 dun.
that was before the sampling laws. Sampling laws. License to Ill, I think, was
But-
the last one where they.
But to your point, I think that it depends on what side of the coin you look. Giving the example of Vicky putting something out that went viral, it only went viral because it was interesting, right?
Good point.
Yeah.
And it only went viral because it was entertaining, So it may not be the organic, Dave Matthews that could just sit there and play with his band, 50 million different instruments and compose and raw
Yeah.
talent, prodigy. It's different,
You like Dave Matthews, don't you?
No, I wish I liked Dave Matthews.
I wish I liked Dave Matthews
tried.
more. I've
I've
tried
tried.
to love Dave Matthews.
all my friends love
On
him.
paper, I should like I
Yeah.
should like Dave Matthews, and I should like you too. And I don't.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
neither of them.
Vicky,
don't.
thoughts on you two?
You too. Well, that was like when I was in high school, and at that moment, I listened, but I wasn't like a huge fan.
Having it
and
forced.
Dave Matthews, I wish I was into him too, because he's always staying at the Breakers every time he comes to town, and my son works over there.
He's always
But-
in town, it seems like. But I would
Yeah.
love to go back and talk to a high school Vicky. I would love.
I wouldn't have talked to you.
Damn. That is cool. Why not?
I was too preppy.
You were. I wasn't preppy. I don't know what the heck I was. I was goofy.
When I was like in 11th grade, I had this little mirror. It said Deja Vu. And every time I got to social studies class, I'd pull out, and my teacher, Mr. Fresco, one time I was looking in my mirror, and he goes, "Well, excuse me, Buffy." And that became my high school nickname then, because I look like the typical little stuck-up.
What is Buffy?
snooty-
Is that like a?
Buffy. It's a rich girl name.
Oh,
It's a stuck-up rich
Buffy
girl name.
is? It's
Yeah.
a rich girl name.
It was back in the
She's
80s.
been sandbagging us. I'm the one that's been taking the heat for preppy.
This whole time, Vicky is the one that grew up on the right side of the tracks.
Oh, I had like so many Ralph Lauren's, and back then you had the matching espadrilles that went with your polo
I
shirt.
would love
Nice.
to talk to an old school Vicky. That would be.
We got to bring a
great.
picture in.
We all,
Yeah.
let's all bring in our high school pictures.
I'll find one.
Oh,
That-
man. I
that-
have bleach tips.
I think I had bleached tips too.
I don't doubt any of that. I took some pretty terrible school pictures. I'm
Oh,
not gonna
geez.
lie. There's one school my 8th grade picture is so horrific. I can't believe that they allowed it to go in the yearbook, because clearly I looked disturbed. I look like some shit is going down. I have to find that picture. If anyone has a Howell Watkins, what year? Never mind.
You don't want to say it. You want one more here?
Denny's. I don't know if we want one more. I think we need one more.
All right. You guys know 7-Up, the popular soda? Well, much like Coca-Cola, which contained cocaine in it, 7-Up, the up from the title, is derived because it used to have lithium in it, and it gave people a mood enhancement.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, and they didn't even take that ingredient out until 1950. So
mean,
from
Coke-
1926.
Sodas used to be awesome. Coca-Cola had cocaine in it.
Well,
Like,
they used to
it
be
just-
health elixirs. You
Right,
would drink
got it.
them, and they were supposed to
Yeah.
invigorate you. And now we drink them, just.
So I was about 23, 22 years of age, and I was really kind of going through a darker time of my life, and I was seeing a therapist, and they they diagnosed me with some type of depression and anxiety and all kind of stuff. And I think a lot of it back then was just me being a young 20-year-old,
Hormones.
just trying to figure things out. Honestly, if I look back to it, a lot of the issues that I was having were all things that I could have dealt with on my own. Not to down therapy, because I think therapy is important, but I go to this therapist, and within 5 minutes they send me to this psychiatrist who's able to prescribe medicine. 5 minutes of talking to me, he prescribes me lithium. Lithium.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. So I'm taking lithium for about 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, and holy shit, did I make a huge turn for the worse. I mean, I had so many side effects. I turned into a zombie, completely misdiagnosed with the medicine, with just the entire thing. 5 minutes of that. I mean, lithium was...
I believe that's what Kurt Cobain was on.
I'm not saying lithium doesn't have its place. I don't know much about lithium, so I'm not trying to speak ill of it. But I know for me, that was a terrible experience for being with a psychiatrist and trusting them. And I remember it was a 5-minute conversation. Oh, okay, you can't walk in front of a building and you're down and out. Lithium, boom. I mean, that kind of that shows you that there is a bit of a problem with misdiagnosing people with mental illness.
Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah. So and then
Denny's did end on a up note with
look
that
at that.
one.
Look
at
I
that.
did not.
Look.
I never heard that one before.
I mean, it spawned a personal story from Bird.
Yeah.
Today.
yeah.
Home run, Josh. Home run. Is that it?
yeah.
There's a story out there, another cloning story. I know we talked about it a while ago. Well, we talked a bit last week on the KVJ show. Some rich woman is cloning her dog. I think she cloned it 3 times.
Yeah, what you wonder
It's
about.
not the same animal. Thoughts
She needs to
on
go see Pet Cemetery.
that? Is a freaky movie. Bitch Boy Beckett, I don't think he could handle that. Have you seen Pet Cemetery?
Started it.
Couldn't do it.
Well, the new one.
Beckett's gonna have a couple drinks before.
Oh, there's a new Annabelle coming out shortly. We could drag Beckett to that when it comes out.
What's Annabelle?
What's your name? Beckett. Are you kidding me? We've talked about Annabelle
It's the
several
doll.
times.
possessed doll.
Oh, yeah.
We have to give Beckett a weird whatever quiz on the things we've taught him.
We should. That's pretty funny. We'll submit some questions.
Absolutely. But so where are we at with cloning? We talked about it probably 6 or 7 months ago. We're all against cloning, or
I
is there?
am.
Can you
There's
see?
benefits to it.
I'm not talking about cloning limbs. I'm not talking.
I hear you.
Any of that.
Cleaning
I'm talking
another
about
creature.
Cloning another creature. Are we against that? Are we messing with shit we should not be messing with, Denny's?
Well, I imagine. Well, so if you think anything that's alive has some sort of conscience to it, right? And you're cloning it, who knows what like horrific thoughts or emotions or moods anything would have, right? Like you wouldn't think you would get the recipe right every
I'm
time.
thinking if I could clone my mom, would I want a clone to Kay Pennington? No, man. Hell no.
Yeah.
It's not authentic. I feel like
I don't get it.
I don't get it either, but are we living in a time where it was so out of our world? Cloning it's crazy. They're cloning llamas and they're cloning sheep and Dolly, this is against our way. Now, let's say you've got someone who's born tomorrow and their normal was people clone. We clone. That's what we do here on Earth. When they're 18, 20 years old, they're not going to have a problem with cloning. They're not going to have an ethical issue with cloning because it's the normal. Are we, again, just a product of our time? Or is there something seriously wrong with cloning?
Someone would have to present a case to me that doesn't commoditize a living being by a reason to clone.
Right.
That doesn't make animals a commodity or another human commodities. And what I mean by that, the only argument I could think of cloning, we're like, oh, I got better horses to play polo on, or I have better cow to make meat,
Very self-serving reason.
Yeah,
It's
self-serving
for a
reason.
reason.
Like, why else would you want to clone? To me, like horse racing has other forms of horses in sports, because I'm privy to that. Like, they can clone. Like show jumping, polo, you can clone per the rules. In horse racing, it's got to be live birth. It's got to be certified. You have to, have witnesses on terms of like the mating and blah, blah, blah. So it's you can't just, because then it would just be NASCARs.
Yeah.
Right? It would just be
Yeah,
a bunch
totally.
of NASCARs. And I have never heard a good argument towards cloning.
But do you see my point though about just growing up in your normal? What we think is normal or abnormal is because, again, a product of our time. You know, if you were raised, Vicky, to eat cockroaches, and
It would be the norm.
That's not going to be weird to you.
Yeah.
Right. It would be the norm. But I'm with Becca about the cloning. You got to give me a good reason. There's plenty of homeless dogs. And,
Loneliness.
And things like that. So there's plenty of people out there. There's plenty of animals out there. You don't need to make a replica of one that's already there.
I'm married to a woman, and she dies before her time, and I loved her, and I want to be around her. Someone comes to me, some mad scientist with crazy hair, probably a white jacket, very, very long, the jacket. He says, hey, or she, I don't like this sexist. He says, I can make a replica of your woman. She's going to be the same kind of woman. Yeah, she's going to be slightly off, but you're gonna get the feeling of that woman. You're still against it.
To me, it's not that person. It's not that exact person. You're not bringing that person back. So it's just a substitute.
That'd be analogous. Like, my wife passed away. Like, let me marry her identical twin. Like, that's basically what cloning more or less would be.
Have you ever
right?
dated a twin, Becca? I feel like you have a hot twin.
Not both of them, but one of them.
I knew there was a twin story.
Somewhere in there.
I knew there was a hot twin story. Yeah.
Except for the night they switched.
That'd be cool.
I'm sure it would. Let me see here where we at with time. We're almost at an hour. Time travel. There's a story out about a guy claims he knows the future. He's predicting the president coming up, not 2020. I think he's predicting the very last president of America.
That's easy.
But he's got the year. He's got the reason why. His name is Adam. I'm probably going to butcher his name. It looks like Adam Archon. This is what he's got to say about time travel.
In early 2019, there will be a worldwide rise in UFO sightings. In 2020, there will be a robot released to the public that causes a lot of controversy. In August of 2028, the existence of aliens is revealed to the public. I cannot say where they're from, but it is not from space. In February of 2029, there is an implanted chip known as the One that lets people pay, expand their brain functions, and stay healthy. This will go in your right hand. In the early 2030s, all countries begin converging into one. There are 7 world districts and 10 leaders that follow the commands of an artificial intelligence. The last formal president of the United States is Yolanda King. She's the best president the United States has ever seen.
Okay, guys. Well, there you go. It's all mapped out for us.
So what year is that's supposed to go down? So he was naming a couple things.
He kind of just throwing out some random things. I mean, that's kind of like
2028. He said that it would be revealed to the public. Is that what he said? 2028.
You don't have to listen to the podcast, then. He's like, I can't.
I'll listen back.
I thought it was like August of 2020 for the aliens.
Gotcha.
Because I remember because that's my birthday month. So.
Do we think we're living in the time where we get proof of aliens, or are we just reaching because we are so hopeful? Or at least I'm alien hopeful.
Because you think a lot of lifetimes were like, this will be the lifetime.
Well, every lifetime is we're living in Armageddon. Our generation's going to die. There's going to be a meteorite. Earth is gone. Every generation has thought they were the last generation. Look into the history of that. Every generation thinks that.
True.
The only difference is now we have the power to actually make that happen.
I think we've always had the power to make that happen. Not us, but just a potential of a meteorite. But let's say we have 30 meteorites hit Earth at the same time. Earth is still going to stand. There's going to be some bullshit that goes down, and there's going to be effects, and there's going to be a whole process of terrible shit that goes down. But Earth is going to still be okay eventually. What takes Earth out, Vicky? Completely.
The sun losing power.
That's what it's those solar flares. Have you guys ever read up on those solar flares? Those solar flares are so
It
horrifying.
takes the slightest deviation.
Yeah, I Google solar flares and then go try to go to bed. Have fun with that.
I used to be confident that if like we had an asteroid that like they saw with one of our satellite telescopes, and it was like in a year from now it was gonna Russia, the United States,
Bruce Willis,
like everyone gets
Michael
together. We figure out a way to like shoot a bullet or.
Oh yes, if life was like the movies, Beckett.
Right, like they figure out some way to do it, but NASA couldn't even figure out a spacesuit for a woman to do a spacewalk. So now I've totally lost confidence in our ability to get anything done.
You should not have confidence because nothing against NASA. I love me some NASA, but they still don't have it together when incoming meteorites are heading towards Earth. They find out 3 days, again, do the research. There are times where NASA misses asteroids heading in our area. Not going right
and they
toward.
debate whether to tell the public or not.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
like, should we say it?
holy crud.
I do think in our lifetime, NASA scientists find life on another planet, whether that's like a little fossil of a worm or an actual worm or amoeba or whatever, some of the mitochondria or whatever.
Amoeba, unicellular organism. Very good.
Yeah. I think that probably maybe sometimes happens, maybe even on Mars at some point or whatever in our lifetime. I don't know that, it'd be amazing if we had contact with, then we could be China. We could just steal their technology.
Why you gotta turn into a war, Beckett? Vicky, what takes Earth out?
Well, I just have to. It's hard for me to separate myself from my upbringing. So I think of Revelations and.
So you think that's
the ultimate
when you hear trumpets, you think, oh shit, it's going down?
Fortunately, I don't hear them too often, except for at band practice.
I know. I mean,
Not very bad.
I think one time I was high and I heard trumpets from across the street.
Like,
I'm like,
no.
Daddies, I think we're dying.
Take me.
They're taking us.
But I'd rather prefer that that end is down the road, according to Revelations, and not the sun or meteorite or something like that or nuclear war.
The one that always scared me as a kid, and I don't even know the science behind it, but I heard the Earth can fall off its axis and we can spin out into space, and that was the one that always scared me as a kid, because they say your face starts to fly off and your eyeballs pop out.
Oh my god!
At least that's what I was told as
Total
a kid.
Recall.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why I have night terrors.
I'd say overpopulation is what takes Earth out.
So us in general.
I think we overpopulate. We have too many people, and then we can't accommodate with food.
There's still so many places on Earth though that.
It's about food and water. I think those are the two big determining factors whether we can live or not. So then you argue, should we start cloning? Because at one point we are going to run out of food.
Someone bringing it back full circle. I
Trying to
like
bring it
that.
back around.
Denny's, I got to tell you, right at the hour mark.
You know.
Very, very good. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to the podcast? Anything you want to plug? I enjoyed our time together.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Beckett, I'm liking the new hairdo, slick back kind of a thing going.
Yeah, it's the headband because of Virginia's headphones.
Yes.
Oh, is that why you do it?
Yeah,
And keep us posted on the Bachelor in Paradise. I'd like to know what's going down.
Definitely. I'm going to be very annoying about you wearing weird whatever shit.
I think my Bachelor days of that ship sailed. I think.
Why? You think you're too old, don't you?
I'm committed for a podcast.
You know what? Hold on. In fact, I want to end the podcast on this email, actually, because I get the feeling, because before you had talked, before we started the podcast, I got the feeling like I'm getting too old for this shit. I just want to read you something, and I love this email if I can find it. Okay, here we go. It's titled "Old People Doing Cool Things." I love these kind of stories. Dear Weird and Whatever, my mom just turned 90. She jumped out of a plane and did the whole skydiving thing. I know how you like when older people do extraordinary things. Her name is Daisy, and she lives in Maine. Being old doesn't mean you have to be old and collect dust. Go out and live, baby. My mom does, and she is such an inspiration. Love the podcast. April from Stewart. Amen, April. Just because you're old doesn't mean you're put away to do diddly shit.
For sure.
I mean, there's great things out there you can do until you take your last breath. Can I get an amen on that?
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you on that. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, nice
so,
high note.
Beckett, you ain't too old to do Bachelor in Paradise.
That's right.
Get out of your head.
All right.
And you
All
get you get those abs back.
Did the Braveheart speech work?
I like it.
All right. Freedom. Thank you guys for listening. We love you all. And Bigfoot is real.
What was that? What? What's that sound? It's aliens and they're living in your town.